I'm Heather Caruso, and I have the privilege of serving at UCLA Anderson as the Associate Dean for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, also as the chair of the university's campus-wide Council of Equity Advisors. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We have an enormous treat in store. We're going to get to hear from 3 of the recipients of this year's 2025 International Women of Courage Award, an honor bestowed only on 8 women from across the globe in recognition of their exceptional work to advance peace, justice, human rights, and the empowerment of women and girls everywhere. Right? I think the work that these women do and the work that they empower and mobilize others to do is truly remarkable. Almost always, this work is carried out with too few resources, under risky conditions, and in the face of the threat of relentless kind of failure. It's a brutal kind of effort to keep going as they do, but they do forge ahead, even when they're faced with, life-threatening opposition, life-threatening indifference. It's really inspiring what they have been able to achieve. You can see we are truly honored to have the International Women of Courage here with us today, and to have 3 of them as our featured guests for this panel discussion on driving global change. We have Georgiana Pascu from Romania, who has dedicated her career to fighting for the rights and the dignity of institutionalized persons with psychosocial and intellectual disabilities. We have Namini Wijedasa from Sri Lanka, an investigative journalist whose work has helped to combat corruption and to champion freedom of expression across the country. And we have Amat Al-Salam Al-Hajj, a woman who has helped as founder and co-president of the Abductees Mothers Association to fight for the rights and the release of forcibly disappeared individuals. And moderating this conversation, we have our very own Caitlin Che, our U.S. diplomat in residence for Southern California, a woman who has over 2 decades of experience in international affairs and foreign relations, has done diplomatic tours everywhere from Afghanistan to Nepal to South Korea, and whose personal approach to diplomacy never fails to uplift the heart and human dignity. Caitlin, I'll turn it over to you.
Before we start, I just want to make sure we have everything all set for our panelists. And while we're waiting for that, may I please also take this opportunity to have the other recipients of this award stand and face the audience to be recognized, please. Amat, we're good to go? Yes? Okay, great. Thank you all for being here today. I believe the answers rise or fall to the questions that it meets. And so here are the questions that we will be asking today. And it's a question back to you as well. And I also want to honor those of you who took the time to be here with us today. It takes time. It takes choice. And so it says a lot about you to be here today, and I thank you for that. So some of the questions that we'll be asking today. Each of you chose to speak out or act when it would have been easier and safer not to. Can you describe the moment when you realized you had to do something, even if it came with personal or professional risk? In your work, how do you navigate the tension between grief, rage, or despair, and the need to stay focused, strategic, and effective? In hindsight, is there something you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey about power, institutions, or even yourself that you would share with your younger self or with us today? What's a story of someone you've met through your work who gave you a deeper understanding of why you do what you do. What advice would you give to someone who sees injustice or abuse in their workplace, community, or country, but doesn't know where or how to begin speaking up? And finally, what gives you hope right now, even in moments when the world feels overwhelming? So shall we get started? All right, Namini, I'll start with you. First one is each of you chose to speak out or act when it would have been easier or safer not to. Can you describe the moment when you realized you had to do something, even if it came with personal or professional risk?
I don't think there was a particular moment. I didn't join journalism by choice, but once I got into it and I started hearing the stories of people around us, there was no option in my mind but to reflect it, because I always say that I'm just a platform for other people. So very often it's on a very rare occasion like this that we become the story, unless you're under threat or in prison or dead. But for me, it has always been a question of doing the best I can for the people who come to me, knowing that I will be able to express something that they themselves can. So I can't identify a particular moment when I decided I would do this.
I don't know. It's a very tough question. I was thinking for the moment that I saw the questions. I might say that there were different moments in my life. First, when I was a student back in mid-90s, when I saw so many children in orphanages in Romania after the Communist War. Then in February 2004, when I met an youth orphan with intellectual disabilities, orphan, HIV infected, and from Roma ethnicity, and he was abandoned, and I found him with few hours before he died, and I didn't know. So then we litigated in front of domestic and the European Court of Human Rights for 10 years after we changed and we think that someone made him justice. And then maybe when I try to probably more, how can I say, solve this personal issue, because I was ashamed that I, left him in the hospital and I went to fill in the complaint and I was quite sure that he will be okay. And when I met this young woman that is also in the movie, and in 2003, I found her abandoned in a basement of a private home where 100 people were part of a network of exploitation and human trafficking in a private home with public money of persons with disabilities. And everybody told me, wait, the ambulance will come, but she has no chance to survive. And now you see, she walks, she eats, she speaks, and I'm so happy for this. I don't know. I think it's important to speak for, as Namini already mentioned, it's important to speak for people that don't have a voice. And I'm thinking here at children and youth and adults and elderly with developmental and psychosocial disabilities that are placed in private and public social care homes, hospitals, and they cannot speak from that facilities. Thank you.
أولا شكرا لهذا اللقاء والحضور الجميل هذا الرائع المتنوع. أشكركم جميعا على إتاحة هذه الفرصة لي. طبعا بدأت مشواري هذا في لحظات صعبة جدا جدا تمر بها اليمن. طبعا اليمن في أقصى الجنوب من الشرقي أو الغربي للجزيرة، شبه الجزيرة العربية، يطل على باب المندب وعلى بحرين من البحار، البحر الأحمر والبحر العربي. وهذا بدل ما أن يكون سبب سعادة اليمنيين كان له التأثير السيء والسلبي على بلادنا. حصل في بلادنا تدخلات كثيرة ومن الأطراف المتعددة، ثم بعد ذلك حصل صراع واجتاحت جماعة الحوثي لصنعاء المدينة اليمنية. نحسب أن نجيب ترجمة فورية.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for according me the opportunity and to be here and speak with everyone. And thank you for being here as an audience and interested in our stories. My journey started in very difficult times that my country is going through, Yemen. Yemen is located in the western tip of the Arabian Peninsula. We have like the Strait of Bab el-Mandeb, which is a strategic location. We have the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. It should be a source of joy and a source of prosperity for my people. However, it became the opposite. And through many interferences from different parties, we had to go through a lot of difficulties. And finally, the Houthi took over our capital and now in control.
قاموا بعد ذلك باعتقال السيطرة على العاصمة صنعاء واعتقال كثير واختطاف كثير من المدنيين الذي كانوا مناوئين لهم على ما يقولوا، إعلاميين، صحفيين، دكاترة الجامعة، طلاب، رياضيين، الكل بشكل هستيري لدرجة أن وصل الاختطافات أو عدد المختطفين في ذلك الوقت في 2014-2015 إلى 13 ألف مختطف.
And after the Houthis took over the capital, they started really having certain practices in the country that was new. For example, they started to abduct and imprison many people after they took control of the capital. They abducted a lot of civilians, not combatants. Some of them are journalists, media personnel, professors of universities, students, sports personalities. And by the time it was 2015, 2014, they had 13,000 people imprisoned.
قمنا بمناصرة هذه القضية، ولكن كنا نقوم بعمل وقفات احتجاجية فيتم اعتقال أي رجل يقوم معنا في هذه الوقفات، فيتم اختطافهم. ولذلك اتفقنا أني ومجموعة من الأمهات والزوجات وبنات المختطفين أن نؤسس كيان أو رابطة أو جمعية بحيث أن احنا نقوم نحن بالمتابعة لأبنائنا ولا نضطر لأن يكون الرجال هناك من أجل لا يتم اختطافهم من جديد، ونظل نكثر العدد بدل أن يكون العدد قليل. ولذلك أسسنا رابطة أمهات المختطفين في 2016 من على أبواب السجون.
As a result of these practices, when we tried to follow up on the causes and the cases of those abducted individuals, we started with sit-ins, and also we appointed and find lawyers to help us release them. Most of the lawyers were male colleagues or male attorneys, and we contributed to support their causes by having sit-ins and demonstrations. However, we've noticed that the Houthis take the lawyer themselves and imprison them and let them join their clients. We've decided in this case that as mothers, wives, daughters, to start and establish some kind of associations, a body, as a league or something, so that we'll be able to follow up instead of increasing the number of those in prison, including the attorneys. We found that this is the only way that we can continue having their causes in the minds of everybody else. And that's how we started. That's where we began our work.
In hearing you share, and for the benefit of the audience here today, it makes me realize that for the leaders to be, for the faculty, their staff, the students, you don't have to have a perfect plan, right? You don't have to ever feel completely ready for it, but that you have to just remember this one thing, which is willingness to begin. In your work, how do you navigate the tension between grief, rage, or despair, and the need to stay focused, strategic, and effective?
So, yeah, I think all of us experience those emotions at some level, all of us in this room. But when we are exposed to the kind of professions we are in where we see so much grief, that much more grief, and that much more strife among the people that we deal with, yeah, it's not possible to remain unscathed. And I would say that for me personally, there's two people. There's a person you see in this room, the one who's able to face you all and tell a story of success. And on the other hand, there's the other person at home that my kids and my husband see that's not this strong. And I think it's human, maybe, to be two people. I can't be the same all the time. I'm very conscious of, because I'm an investigative journalist, there are people who would like to discredit me so that my work doesn't have the impact it does. So I am very conscious of the public image I have to maintain. But in terms of navigating all those emotions you spoke about, I'm not saying I'm fully successful, but it's like a learning process all the time. To remain in focus, again, I come back to the point I made about being a voice for others, which is what I think gives all of us the strength to carry on. It's not really about ourselves, but the focus comes from never losing sight of what we are in this job for, which is actually not us.
To be honest, I think I'm very lucky because I have around me at home and in other parts of the world very good friends and supporters and collaborators. People that sometimes are telling me, oh, take it easy, you cannot save the world. But when I look at them, actually, they are doing a lot of impressive things. Even sometimes when I'm just complaining about things that are not working well in my work, and then they start thinking how they can do better. And I'm thinking here at journalists as well, and people that work as legal professionals or doctors or psychologists or social worker. But for the last couple of months, and actually I think maybe for the last 2 years, it was actually really hard, because if I was used to be in contact mainly with children and adults with disabilities placed in public institutions or private that have no one, so they were, they were raised with the idea they have no one. For the last 2 years, I've met again in an unannounced monitoring visits in a very beautiful place in Romania, in Transylvania, that is advertised everywhere for traveling. I've met a number of children, 63, that were placed in different orphanages in the same city, and all of them need immediate medical care, and for whom the Child Protection Authority told me they will die here, they have no one, their parents abandoned them. And when I start checking the legal papers for the court and medical files, I found unbelievable a number of facts that show us that these children were picked up from their families, because their families were from rural area, very poor, with lack of access to education. They couldn't read or write, so they didn't know what they signed for the court. And I started to travel in that particular county and to meet them and speak with them. And there were a number of women actually that have such a beautiful and clean house. I'm always joking that they have no access to current water, but it was cleaner than my house, where I'm always complaining that it's not enough. And when I showed them pictures with their children, they started to cry, and they told me I was not allowed to visit my son or my daughter. And these are some of the moments that I realized how lucky I am, because I can raise my son. I have like a beautiful home. I can go, I don't know, I have the chance to go home every evening and to sleep well and to not think at this kind of trouble. So I'm always saying that for me, it's very easily to navigate within this, because I can choose. I mean, I have alternatives if I want to work on this or if I don't. But for these parents, they didn't got any kind of alternative. They just, their children were taken off from their families, and then they were not allowed to visit them. And this is happening in this world in 2025. So I think I'm really lucky with everything. Thank you.
نمر بلحظات حزن شديدة جدا وبكاء وألم، لكن الذي يدفعني ويصبرني ويجعل مننا كلنا بنات الرابطة أن نكون قويات هو الأمهات الذين نعمل معهن، والأبناء الذي يخرجوا من السجون ويقولوا أنتم كنتم سندنا وقوتنا، فيدفعنا ذلك إلى العمل بشكل كبير جدا واستمرار.
After we established the association in 2016, one of the things that make us go through this experience and this work is the plight of the mothers and their imprisoned persons who get released as a result of our work and advocacy. But we go through moments of sorrow, deep sorrow, a lot of crying, pain. But the only thing that drives us to continue, not only me and everybody works with me within the association, is the mothers. And they released prisoners when they say that thank you. And that's when we feel like, that's the drive.
الذين يخرجون من السجون يقولوا لنا لا تتوقفوا. في السجون ما زال أبناءنا كثير وأخواننا داخل السجون، ونحن نريد أن تستمروا في دعمكم، نستمروا في عملكم. أم محمد تقول أنا أخاف أني أموت ولا أرى ابني، ولذلك هذا يدفعنا أن نكون أيضا قويات بحيث أن احنا نستمر في هذا العمل ونعمل، وسنسائل ونتابع بعد العدالة الانتقالية حتى جبر ضرر هؤلاء الناس، وأيضا يسائل من كان ينتهك حقوق الإنسان في اليمن.
And with the sons who get released, they keep telling us after they have their freedom back, they push us and they try to tell us, never stop. Don't stop till everybody comes out and everybody gets released. Continue. And this is the part that really makes us go on. The prisoners, when they release, is keep saying that and reiterating and reinforcing our determination to continue. So they say, keep your support, keep your work. And I recall Muhammad, who always, one of the mothers, who keep saying, I'm afraid that I will die without seeing my son released. And that's the drive and that's the motivation for all of us. At the same time, we look for a day when we establish a mechanism of transitional justice. We need to make those who've been aggrieved whole. We need to hold those perpetrators to account. And that's also one of the things that we're working for, that every violator of human rights, every violator of somebody's right in the country will be one day held accountable.
محمد السبئي كان يعاني من سرطان في الركبة، وهو أيضا داخل السجن كان في حالة خطرة جدا، فوقفنا وقفات أمام السجن واعتصمنا وتعرضنا للضرب والاعتقال وغيرها، لكن بفضل الله وفوجود هذه الجهود خرج محمد السبئي وتعالج وتعافى، وهذا أيضا دافع لنا قوي جدا.
I'll give you an example of Mohammed al-Sabai. He had knee cancer while he was imprisoned. And we had sit-ins and demonstrations in front of his detention center. We've been beaten. Some of us have been imprisoned. Thank God, he's been released. He got and seeked and he got treatment, and he is whole and healthy with his family, and that's what drives us to continue and give and work.
هذا الأمل والدافع أيضا أن هناك، وهذا اللي نقوله دائما للأمهات، ما دام للسجن باب وقفل فهو سيفتح يوما من الأيام. لا نيأس بل نستمر في العمل.
And we keep saying to the mothers to give them hope. The reason we're doing this is one day we will be able to break the locks on those doors. As long as those prisons have an exit, it has a door, it has a lock, we'll break it and it's going to open eventually. Therefore, we're going to work, and we have to make sure that this work will result in the freedom of those prisoned.
As we were talking, I noticed that, Amat, you had trouble hearing with the device, and I saw the group of circle of people who are wanting your voice to be heard. And I think that's the circle here today, all of you, part of that circle, wanting to understand, wanting the voices of the people who are marginalized to be heard. And so it's just such a strong living example, and especially for our interpreters, it just again reminds me of using your knowledge, using your talent to be able to give voice to those who cannot speak for themselves. Like, what are we in our lives, in our respective positions, or our talent or our knowledge? How do we give that voice? So the next question is, in hindsight, is there something you wish you had known at the beginning of your journey about power, institutions, or even yourself that you would share with your younger self or with us today?
I mean, so I've been a journalist for about 3 decades now, 30 years. So it's a lot of exposure. Looking back, I would have probably told myself to take better care of myself, because just as much as I say that we're a platform, it's very easy to forget that we're also human. So about power and institutions, it's been a learning process where you try to find the best way to deal with them, regardless of who's in power. And that is, again, something now that has been an experience that I've gathered over the years by myself, and what sort of person I want to be in dealing with power and institutions, which is, I need access. I mean, as a journalist, I need access. But how far am I going to go in order to get that access is an equation I learned for myself. And that equation has been to be firmly a watchdog, regardless of who's in power, which means that even if a government changes, I'm well known enough to know that I'm fair and professional so that I can pick up the phone and get that access. That's not something I could have told my younger self, because it's something I learned on the job. So a lot of the lessons I've learned have been on the job. But looking back, the one thing I would have told myself is, what I said earlier, is to be very aware that you're a human as well. As sometimes we work like machines. I think we put aside our emotions because the moment the emotional part of you comes in, as women, it can also cloud judgment. So you have to be, in terms of, I mean, I'm not saying you don't use empathy and love and caring when you interview people. It depends on the story. When it comes to corruption, that's difficult to apply empathy and love and caring. But if it's, for instance, a human interest story, I'm not saying you should divorce yourself from that story, but to be aware that it can have an impact on you and your families. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think one of the issue is that when I started this work at the Center for Legal Resources, which is a human rights watchdog organization, in the end of 2003, I was expected that everything will be fine in 10 years. And I have already, I know, almost 25 years of working and didn't change much. And actually, I have the feeling that it was better in the beginning. So what I've told myself now is that you should have more patience. Then maybe I should be less tough with my colleagues, because I'm well known that I don't have patience with them, and I want everything to be done yesterday, and also they should read my mind. And also I think I've lost for the last, I'm losing this actually for the last couple of, months or probably years already, this capacity of teaching young generation that is coming from university, and they want to learn. And I'm also looking at my son, and I'm always replying that Google it. You you are the one that explained me this. Google it. So sometimes I have the feeling that I know better, but when I'm actually in the position to sit and have time, like inhale, exhale, I realize that actually people that are now, coming from bench schools, from universities, actually have better idea that I was thinking about. So I think I should be more open to others, maybe to be more understanding. And another issue is that if I would go back 25 years ago, I will try to picture myself in front of the government authorities as a more nicer person, because now most of them are in, when they have to meet with me, they are in kind of, oh my God, what it will happen after that. So I would like that people will see me more nicer than I look.
شكرا صديقتي وأختي كمان. لو رجع بنا الزمن إلى الوراء سنظل نشد ونتابع ونعمل نفس الذي نعمل فيه، بس بأسلوب حديث ومتطور، لأننا تعلمنا في هذه الفترة، في هذه السنين كلها تعلمنا كثير. تعلمت من الأمهات تعلمنا نحن بعضنا البعض، أصبحنا مؤهلات، تدربنا، درسنا، تخرجين طالبات من الرابطة، من الأمهات والزوجات أن يكونن محاميات. ففي أشياء كثيرة بنتعلمها، بنتكلم عليها، بس تترجمنا بعدين.
I'll give the interpreter Mona a chance first, but I would say thank you first for my sister and my friend here, that if we turn the clock backward and we go back in years, I would say we'll do the same thing. But more modern, more efficient, more advanced. We learned a lot from each other as mothers and wives and daughters within the association. We studied a lot of things that were new to us. We got a lot of training. At the same time, we are proud that many of the members of the association, wives and mothers within the association, they reached a point that some of them graduated to be lawyers and went to university and school, and we had to do that to catch up. So that's how I would say that we needed to gain the expertise and the knowledge before we embarked on this.
لا أقول أن أنا أصبحت خبيرة، ولا يمكن أصبحت عارفة بكثير من الأمور التي تهتم بجانب حقوق الإنسان، كيف التعامل مع السجون، كيف التعامل مع المسجونين داخل السجون، كيف آلية الضبط، وكيف لابد أن تكون هذه الآلية، آلية حقوق الإنسان في مسألة الضبط، أن تكون مفعلة في القوانين. وهذا الذي بنعمل فيه بعدين على أساس أنه ما نتجاوز هذه، وأيضا يكون هناك تدريب لهذه الجهات بحيث أنه يكون الضبط والاعتقال أو المساءلة بطريقة قانونية وتحت أيضا إطار قانوني. المشكلة الذي نعاني منها إن شاء الله نخرج منها سريع، وهي استمرار الحرب في بلادنا. هذه معيقة لنا بشكل كبير جدا، لأنه بتزيد الانتهاكات بشكل كبير وتستمر الصراع. ولكن الذي استفدنا منه بنعلمه للآخرين أنهم لا يبدأوا من حيث ما بدأنا، ولكن من حيث ما انتهينا.
I would add also, we've learned a lot in this journey that we didn't know before. For example, I would say I'm not an expert regardless. I mean, at this point, I had no clue when I started anything about the concept of human rights and how to deal with the prisons, what the prisoners would need. I mean, we didn't know a lot of things before we started this journey. However, one of the things that also I would have said we didn't have a clue about is apprehension. What are the laws? What is the framework, the statutes of the country that really deals with the rights of those who's been detained? I mean, there are so many things. However, I would love that for the coming generation to start where we stopped. I mean, we got the training. We needed to look into the framework of the law within the country to see what else we can do. But the problem, the main issue for us that hinders our work, and really it's one of the main obstacles within the country for anybody who works in the human rights field, is the ongoing conflict. The more the conflict continues, the more violations there will be. And one of the things always I will tell the next generation, don't start where we began. Continue from where we stopped and gain as much knowledge about what's going on, so that you'll move on and you'll enhance to our work.
The shared laughter among the panelists and then among the group, it speaks to our shared experience. Right? It speaks to the collective experience that reminds us that we're not so different after all, that certain things, as extraordinary as they are, that they also struggle with imposter syndrome or patience, being curious, being courageously curious, and staying courageously curious. The next question is, what's a story of someone you've met through your work who gave you a deeper understanding of why you do what you do? And as you think about that story, I have a short story to tell, following up on what Georgina said about patience. It was my second tour as an early junior officer, and I was assigned to an embassy where I was in charge, or I was asked to look over the operations side of managing the embassy. And I was invited early on to a very senior leader's house. And as we were walking past his courtyard, there were all this trash that was just littered around that courtyard. And he mumbled to himself, "Oh, I've got to do something about that." And I was walking back. I thought, do I have to do something about that? right? And so a few weeks later, we were invited over again to his house for a reception. And there in the courtyard, there was not a single piece of trash. Now, how I would have gone about doing that to address that would have been to clean it up and put a picket sign up that says, "Do not litter here." Clear, right? Precise, what I'm against. But what he chose to do was he planted this beautiful flower garden in that space. And no one dared to litter. He asked, what are we for? Not so much what are we against, right? What are we capable of? And really reaching out to the highest potential of ourselves. And each of you, the award recipients, are the living examples of that we aspire to also, but that we can relate to through the human stories that you share with us. So, would you mind telling us the story of someone you've met through your work who gave you that deeper understanding of why you do what you do?
It's not one person, but it's my editors throughout my career. Because one thing that, my kids certainly don't listen to me, but one thing I've learned is that people who come before us have already so much knowledge. And some of them have gone through much worse than what we have gone through, especially in journalism in Sri Lanka, where the editors have always done their job, journalists have always done their job amidst a lot of difficulties. Editors stand out quite a bit. And the most recent editor I have, who's been of tremendous support, there are also buffers against, there are buffers between us and higher powers. So we are able to work more safely. He's the one I go to when I ask, do we do this story? How much of a risk is there? Because we don't take, we take calculated risks. So he and the ones before him have been through much worse than I have. And one day I did ask him, and I said this in our meeting earlier, is that I was terribly frustrated. And I told him, this is really tough for us. And why do we do this? And he said, and I say this to young people all the time, it's because it's our duty. We do it because it's our duty. And he has, one day I was telling him that when we were under particularly bad threat and during a recent administration, I said, I can't do this anymore because I feel threatened. And he's like, if you lived through what I lived through during, this particular time of administration, this is nothing. So in terms of giving perspective, all of those who came before us, who have learned so much more than us, have always constantly made me understand why I should stay the course.
I think I have two person in my life, one in the beginning and one recently. In the beginning, I received a lot of help from an lawyer, but also legal researcher. He moved from Serbia to UK, and he worked for Amnesty International Secretariat, International Secretariat from London. And he helped me a lot because we worked together in so many institutions. In the first years, I used to work on I had no team at that moment. And he helped me a lot in campaigning and in writing and also in speaking right to authorities, even when I felt alone, like crying and saying, I don't know how to deal with this. And he was the one, drink some water, eat something, do your homework, and do not complain. So he helped me a lot in all of these years, because then he joined our board, and he also worked with me and stay with all my complaints and depression against what's happening around. But very recently, I think I learned and I gave my, strength and power from a very little boy. I met him in 1st of March, a year ago, in an institution. He was screaming a lot and he was crying a lot. and he needs immediate medical care. And I'm always saying that this was, even if my son complains sometimes, this was the most beautiful boy with hair blonde and blue eyes that I ever saw. And he was so cute. And I remember I went there. I also had to work on a case, and I dropped there a friend of mine, a psychologist, because when I arrived in this place, people told me, you cannot touch them. They don't like to be touched. But they were like very small children. And then I was kind of, I don't know, maybe we should bring a psychologist to help us a little bit, because I think everybody needs to be touched and loved. So then I had something to do, but I saw him in the morning screaming, crying. And then when I came back from my case, I saw him, continually crying. And this friend of mine that was volunteer with me in this particular city, again, 10 hours driving from Bucharest, she told me, you should put off your laptop. You should do something if you are here, because this boy needs medical care, like an urgent matter. And I said, I'm not a doctor. What can I do? And she said, call the ambulance. This is at least what you can do. And then we went with him through all of these investigations. And I think he was so strength with all of this. He survived to so many surgical interventions in Bucharest when everybody wanted to move him back in the orphanage in the middle of nowhere. And what actually I learned from him is that we should really have trust in people that they can be better. And also in the others, because in the beginning I was so upset to everybody around, like in hospitals, and everybody like, you need to do something. And then when I, stay with them and explain a little bit about the situation, they were eager to help us because I was not his legal representative, and everybody, kind of inquiring who should sign the paper. But I think I have now these two persons in my life in the beginning and from a year ago that learned me that, again, you need to be patient and you need to show that there is a hope in life.
أنا على عكس هذا ما فيش يعني نادرا من يشجعنا ولا بالعكس الكل يقف حاجز، وهذا الذي جعلنا أني وأخواتي في الرابطة أن نكون قويات وشجاعات. يقولوا لنا ما بتقدرين تعملين حاجة، لن تستطيعين أن تعملين شيء، ونحن نقول بالعكس سنخرج أبناءنا من داخل السجون طال الزمن أو قصر. وهذا الذي شجعنا. في ناس يدعمنا يقول لنا تمام أنتوا إن شاء الله يعني كذا مرابة، لكن إحنا مستمرات، وهذا القوة استمديناها من الناحية العكسية اللي هي تحدي للآخرين.
I would say in my case it's a little bit different. On the opposite, we rarely found anybody who would encourage us, support us, and advocate for us. We didn't have anybody around us. On the opposite, everybody says you're not going to reach anything, you're not going to achieve anything. However, me and my sisters in the association, we supported each other and we said, like, no, we are strong enough, we can deal with it. And it was a challenge to us. It challenged us to help our sons to be released from those prisons. Many times we hear you're not going to be able to do anything. You're not going to reach, any of your goals. One day, we keep telling each other, one day, now or later, doesn't matter how long it takes, we'll get them out. We will get them out of the prisons, God willing. And that's how we continue to be strong and steadfast in our goal.
نحن نعمل في اليمن بكلها، يعني في كل أرجاء اليمن، يعني عند الجماعات المختلفة وأيضا عند الحكومة الشرعية. نخرج أبناءنا المدنيين الذي يتم اعتقالهم أو إخفائهم قسريا أو مختطفين، ولذلك الانتهاك عند الجميع. فنحن نتصارع مع الكل، يعني ما فيش معنا جهة تساندنا. لا يدعمون دعم مادي ولا معنوي وإنما كلها بالجهود الذي مؤمن بقضيتنا بعضهم، وأيضا الذي ساندنا في ذلك نحن الأمهات أنفسنا والبنات وذوي المختطفين، ونتابع ونناضل ونسعى عند الجهات جميعا حتى نستمر ويكون لدينا دفعة قوية وكل واحدة تساند الأخرى. احنا بنساند بعضنا بعض، ما احناش مراعين لأي شخص، لأن قصصنا حزينة جدا، حزينة جدا بمعنى الكلمة. أنا أحد الذي تعرضت أيضا للاعتقال والاختطاف مرتين، ولذلك هذا أيضا دفعنا أننا نكون شجاعات وقويات ونناصر ونظل مستمرات على هذه القضية إلى أن تنجح. وصولي إلى هنا ليس سهلا، تركت أبنائي وزوجي وأولادي وأحفادي وأخواتي هناك، والكل منتظر مني ومنتظر ماذا سيكون تأثير هذه الزيارة على أبنائنا داخل السجون.
We're working actually in all over the provinces in Yemen. We're working also for all the different actors in this conflict, who all of them are an equal opportunists who imprisoned our sons. We're working with the different factions, including those imprisoned within the internationally recognized government. These are civilians. They've been imprisoned, abducted, forcibly disappeared. And who supports us? Each other, those mothers. No matter what people think of us, we are the ones who really cry on each other's shoulders. And therefore, now, when we talk about like where we get the hope or who give us the inspiration, it's always the families of the imprisoned, and in particular the mothers. One of the things also for anybody who thinks these stories and these narratives, some of them are really heartbreaking. They're very, very sad. We move on and we continue. I, myself in front of you, I've been beaten. I've been imprisoned twice. And this is the small price we pay for these efforts. And when it comes to our role, it was not easy for me even to come here, and everybody is waiting for the results and the impact of me being here, getting this award on those who's been in prison, who's still languishing in prison. My husband, I left my family there, my grandchildren, my daughters, my sisters, and everybody is anticipating my return and the ramifications of being here and the award that I've received. But we'll continue our work and we'll be steadfast in continuing our work.
700 أسرة منتظرة. ماذا سنعمل؟ هل سيكون هناك انفراجة؟ هل سيكون هناك حل؟ هذه مجرد بس أمهات المختطفين والمخفيين قسرا، لكن عندنا في اليمن مئات الأسر، آلاف المشردين والنازحين والمتأثرين بالناحية الاقتصادية والناحية والحرب وغيرها والحصار. هذه كلها تدفعنا نحن، تجعلنا قويات وتجعلنا شجاعات، تجعلني أنا بالذات حاملة هذه الهم اليمن كلها. أخاف على بلدي. نحن لا نعيش في استقرار، نحن تعبانات، سواء ناشطات غيرهم. المنظمات الحقوقية تم اختطاف أبنائهم. 60 عضو من أعضاء المنظمات الدولية والمنظمات العاملة في المجال الإنساني تم اعتقالهم من قبل جماعة الحوثي. ولذلك نحن لا نعيش سلام في بلادنا، وهذا الذي يدفعنا أن نكون قويات وأن نستمر في هذا العمل وأن نرجع بالسلام إن شاء الله تعالى.
Many of us are facing a lot of problems. There are 700 families, only the families of those who's been abducted or forcibly disappeared. And we're talking about hundreds and thousands of others. And within, in everywhere in the country, across Yemen, there are many thousands of displaced families who are really forcibly removed from their homes. We're talking about 60 local staff who used to work for international and humanitarian human rights organizations who are also imprisoned by the Houthis. We're seeking help and assistance to stop the war. We're hoping to have a peaceful country one day. As mothers, we cannot afford to stay home and not work together and support each other to change the situation. I feel the entire weight of the country today being representative of those mothers and women in front of you on my shoulders. And I'm really hoping that the situation will change and only peace and stability will alleviate a lot of pain in different sectors. And many people in Yemen are facing, not only those who are working or affiliated with our association. And however, that said, as mothers, we have the strength, we have the courage to be steadfast and continue.
I wish we could have more time. You know, Amat, when we spoke earlier, you said, I'm so nervous about being here. And I remember just saying to you, let your life speak. The people here today are the most integrated people that I have met, where their inner longings match their external actions. You know, for me, over time, I've come to see that love is the work of mirroring and magnifying each other's light. And to you, what you said, Amat, it is steadfast work. It is, to Georgina, patient work. It is, to you, Namini, not giving up on you work. And when life or shame or crisis, uncertainty obscures you from seeing your own light, but there is a person who's clear-eyed and a loving person that you beam to. And I feel like today that we beam at you. And in our best moments, I think we can be that person for each other. And really, we beam at the people who took the time today, the care of all the hands that has made today possible. It's a collective effervescence here today. And so as you walk back, as you go back, that you remember this room, that you remember this moment, that though our steps may be different and we go in different places, that you never walk alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Caitlin, and a huge round of applause for all of our women of courage. Namini and Georgiana and Amat Al-Salam. So fantastic to have you with us today. Thank you, and if you'll allow our students to give you a couple of pieces of UCLA memorabilia as a reminder of the time that you've spent with us today. Thank you so much. I'll ask you to stay for just a moment because before we close and head out to Marian Anderson Courtyard for the reception, I just want to take a moment to thank the partners who made this event possible. I would say, first and foremost, please give your round of applause at the end of all of this to the Department of State for their sponsorship of the International Women of Courage Award. To our partners from Meridian International, the American Women of International Understanding, International Citizen Diplomacy of Los Angeles, for putting this panel together. All have been outstanding and courageous partners in their own right. Thank you so much.